Here we go now. Here we go now. Here we go now.
And here we are. It is Wednesday night. You've got me and Howard Bender at Roto Buzz Guy with you for the next 2 hours. We're going to help you set your lineups. We're going to talk about the waiver wire, the buy, get into everything that's going on. You're listening to Lisa Ann Does Fantasy on the Better Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm. Howard Bender, how the hell are you today?
I'm doing all right, Lisa Ann. I'm doing all right. It's been a good week since last we spoke, and I just enjoying myself. I took a page from Lisa Ann's book, and not the actual book, which I have right over there, but I took a page from your get some me time, some R&R in there, and so I was I did all the work that I needed to do for Fantasy Alarm, and still managed to take a little quality time for myself.
What's great about taking some time doing things that you love is you find that you're so much more efficient when you get back to work. So like as guilty as you feel for taking the day off or a couple of hours off, you get back and you do so much more and you do it better. So it is important. And last we spoke, you were going to this mythical pumpkin festival, as I learned that you are located in the pumpkin capital of like the world.
The pumpkin capital of the world, Half Moon Bay, California, 100%. We just had our annual Pumpkin Fest, which is a 2-day free-for-all. Congratulations to the guy. We set a brand new world record for the largest pumpkin this year. I think this sucker was, oh yeah, there it is. Look at that. That sucker's over 2,700 pounds.
How did he get it there? He has to use machinery. It had to be on the back of it like the 18-wheeler.
So they put it on flatbeds. Like that's how they have to, like, they put on a flatbed and they kind of drive up with their tractor and they have their pumpkins there. These ginormous pumpkins. So yeah.
Now I have so many follow-up questions. After this wins this esteemed award, is there a check? Is there a cash bonus? Like, what's the guy get? Is it like bragging rights? I am the king of all pumpkins.
Well, the pumpkin community is, it's pretty tight. It's pretty close knit. There's no nepotism there, which is actually really good. And they don't really like crap on new people trying their homegrown pumpkin seeds there. It's a very welcoming group, but very close knit. I don't know if there's any money exchanging hands anywhere. But I mean, if you're living in the pumpkin capital of the world and you just set the world record for the biggest pumpkin, sure. I mean, you're pretty much just, you're strutting your stuff the entire time. Like, I mean, you're walking taller. I don't even know if you need a cash prize. I think it's
kind of a big deal.
It's kind of swagger. You know what I mean? If you could roll up with one of those things of that size, you got some swagger going for you. Joe Burrow got nothing on the person who collabed to work so hard, so carefully. Now, will they carve this pumpkin? Because I feel like you could make like 8,000 pumpkin pies.
I do not. I'm sure that they do. I'm sure they go in there. But I think what they do is they harvest the seeds and it goes towards, because these are like special seeds. So quick, long story longer. When we closed the club in San Francisco during COVID, she was, unemployed and there was shelter in place, everything like that. So she ended up, our neighbor, who was the old mayor of Half Moon Bay, Farmer John, who is, the pumpkin farmer to be here in Half Moon Bay. She ended up going and, she said, is there anything I can do to help you out? Because he was doing all sorts of like charitable stuff and whatever. And she was like, I'm just sitting at home. I just want to help. And he's like, could you run my pumpkin farm stand? this year for me? Can you like, help me like do the whole?" And so she was slinging pumpkins in 2020, and now like I know all of like the ins and outs of these, like the special seeds that they grow and that they harvest and all that fun stuff to make it, like how they like, they put like damp cheesecloth on the gourd.
Oh
and
yeah, there's
they
a science to this.
tuck it
This
in. It's
just doesn't
crazy.
have it's crazy. They're worried about weather. They're thinking about the soil testing, all of it. I'm adding this on when I'm retired and I want to go to all kinds of things like hot air balloon festivals. I'm adding this pumpkin thing to my list. I'm not a huge Halloween person, but I think this is so much more fun than Halloween. And by the crowd standing behind that large gorge, shall we call it? It looks like kind of a rager.
Oh, dude, it's a total rager. That's their main stage. That's where they did all the pumpkin judging and the competition, and they did the whole weigh-in thing over there. But I mean, yeah, this is like there's a pumpkin pie eating contest. There's like a whole food court area thing. There's giant booths of all over Main Street, like arts and crafts, artsy fartsy stuff. Like I mean, really cool
Local
stuff.
artists bring stuff to
Yeah, all the
sell,
local
like
artists kind of do
yeah.
their thing. And then they bring in bands also, not like, crazy bands, but we decided on this very same stage, we took in a little Steely Dead. They're a four-man band, and they cover the Grateful Dead and Steely Dan. So
What
they
a
do.
great I kind of figured that by their name. They did a good job of not leaving anything a rock unturned. What a weird combo, Steely Dan and the Grateful Dead, but they can cater to any mass,
Oh,
right?
you should. I'm telling you, man, I mean, we're talking about a Brown-Eyed Women into Ricky Don't Lose That Number opener, right? They had a Mississippi Half Step into a Kid Charlemagne jam that was like these guys were like rock solid. So Steely Dead, they're like, these like this quartet from Colorado just kind of playing these little small festival circuits.
I love it. I wrote down the name because I will be finding them on the gram and possibly on TikTok and watching some of their shows and all of that. But this is an exciting thing with, just nothing but love for nature, a massive pumpkin. But there's something that you're dealing with, Howard, that I think that you need to share with all of us. This isn't really like an intervention, but you seem to be hooked
What?
on some sweet, sugary something that you
No, I'm
probably
not. I'm
should
on a
have never.
diet.
Wait a second. You're working through an addiction to Frankenberry cereal.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
I think you've kind of turned into the Frankenberry.
Listen, it's not addiction. It's love. It's love.
So
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
you
there
are,
we
Howard.
go.
How do you like that? That's you and your love. Let's talk about this. Are
Why?
you not
There's
why
nothing
is it
wrong
in
with
the
it.
shed with you and not in the kitchen? Are you stashing it because you're not supposed to be having it?
No,
Are you eating it dry or with milk?
maybe.
I'm going to
I
tell
don't
you
know.
something. I
I don't know.
haven't had
You tell me what's going
some
on here.
you know what? Better Boss says the same. I didn't even know they still made Frankenberry, but then again, the couple times I've walked through the cereal aisle by mistake to get somewhere else, I'm always floored. How do you make a decision in that aisle? There's too many choices. I just don't buy cereal.
There is no choice. This is the 1-1 of cereal.
The
People
one-
often complain that Frankenberry is not available outside of Halloween time, and I say that's not true. That is not true. Frankenberry, you can have this year round. You should have this year round. This is
What do you do? Buy a massive amount at one time,
no,
like at Costco?
buy a
Case of it?
box. What are you talking? Why do that? It's just a fresh box whenever I need it. What's wrong?
Okay.
What's the
There's nothing wrong with it, but we're,
okay?
I know that you wanted to kind of break away, and I thought maybe this is a safe space, Howard Bender. We could talk about your
No,
Frankenberry addiction.
it's not an addiction.
I wish you weren't a liar.
It's not an addiction. I can stop
I
anytime I want.
I wish I lived closer because I would break in and steal that box.
No, you wouldn't.
I would.
No, you wouldn't.
I would. Well, the dogs might make that tricky, but okay. We got that. I got to watch your Jets beat the
Oh,
Philadelphia Eagles when I was with a friend. It was his 50th birthday. He came to stay with me for the weekend. He had a group of friends meet him in New York City. Such an easy and great place to go out. We ended up watching the game. He's the only Eagles fan with a group of Jets fans, and it was lit. How do you feel about it? Do you feel stronger about your 3-3 team, your New York Jets right now?
No, I feel the exact same way about my New York Jets as I did before. I give massive kudos to the fact, and I'll tell you what, like, this shows you just how, of a pessimistic Jets fan I am. When we got word that Sauce Gardner was going to be out, my DFS lineups were littered with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. I was like, are you kidding me? No DJ Hall, no Sauce Gardner. The rest of the defenses in the secondary is all sorts of banged up. I was like, I'm in on that. I bet the Eagles -6.5, right? I was like, and then the Jets, had this performance. Now the question is was the Jets defense that good? Or are the Eagles maybe a little bit of a pretender and that you can expose them, especially when they're not able to run the football? Like, when DeAndre Swift isn't rushing for 155 yards, what are the Eagles doing?
I agree. It's not as much. That's one side of it. Now, we know there were some changes there right after the Super Bowl to some coordinators, but Jalen Hurts, and this was a conversation on a show I was listening to earlier today. Dak Prescott throws 3 interceptions, and I find out all about it all the way in Sicily, right? It's horrible. The world's coming to an end. Jalen Hurts, I have not heard as much dog diggity on Jalen Hurts for 3 interceptions. And yes, the Jets defense is that good, and it's very much going to help Zach Wilson just kind of facilitate what he needs to do. But this was a surprising lackluster performance by the Eagles, as well as you're getting by. Like, you're winning games right now. The New York Jets, without anybody believing them, with Zach Wilson at the helm, are winning games.
I
know it's hard. I mean, it's
it really
tough for those.
is.
What's tougher for most of us right now is you've got 2 healthy running backs in Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook playing for the New York Jets.
We don't even use Dalvin anymore. He's just wasting away. We should trade that dude.
But nobody wants him. You could try. Like, I'm going to this weekend go to teams that are really in a bad spot with the next week's bye weeks. And that's when I'm going to try and dump these players. But
I bet the Jets need to trade Dalvin Cook. That's what they need to do. Yeah, you can't get squat for him in fantasy.
You can't, but Aaron gave up some of his paycheck to bring in this cat. And right now he's just ganking stuff from Breece Hall, and neither of them are amounting to anything.
I'm okay with Breece. I mean, listen, the bye week is going to be very telling to see what happens. And the October 31st is Halloween, the trade deadline for the NFL. I could totally see the Jets shopping Dalvin Cook around. I mean, he's only on a 1-year deal. It's a pretty friendly deal money-wise, obviously, because he was basically playing. He signed a deal for whatever was in Aaron Rodgers' back pocket at that moment. And so, I think that we could probably, move him and get him over someplace else. I'd like to see that, at least from a Jets fan perspective here. But, from a fantasy standpoint, I think it's lock and load on Breece Hall. I don't even care about who the matchup is against it. You're going to want to get him in there. I don't think Dalvin's going to take too much away from him as we move forward through the season.
I agree with you on that completely, but still, you won the game against a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. And you're not hearing the rumblings on Zach Wilson haven't really changed, right? But not hearing as much smack talk. I mean, the Cowboys just get it no matter what. And Jalen Hurts puts up 3 interceptions, and it's not a big deal.
Well, all right. I mean, listen, if are you ready to have this discussion with me, Lisa? I don't know if you're ready to have this discussion with me.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not Jim. I'm not sensitive about my Cowboys. I know the truth. I know that we haven't been to the playoffs.
Like you say, like we don't hear anything about Jalen Hurts or, and nothing's changed about Zach Wilson. But every time the Cowboys screw up or do something, like you guys, you fans bring it on yourselves. Like that's where the problem is, because, for whatever reason, maybe we should blame the algorithm for the NFL schedule. The Dallas Cowboys get this like soft, squishy, like easygoing. Oh yeah, let's play these guys for like the first 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep.
You guys are 4-1, and every Cowboys fan is like, "We're going to the Super Bowl. We're the greatest franchise in all of history," and blah blah. And then all of a sudden, then you look around and you're suddenly 4-3. And then you're 5-3, and then you're back on it. We're back. And then before you know it, you're 6-6. And and all of those like Super Bowl dreams, like all of a sudden you guys are like dead silent.
I don't want you to ever believe that in any way, shape, or form, I have Super Bowl dreams for the Cowboys. I just don't. I don't see them having that type of longevity. But what I would like us to do, just simple as a fan, if we could just get past the first round of the playoffs, just break that seal, and we can lose in the next round. I'm fine with that because we don't have what it takes. We don't have the consistency. We're missing that X factor that Michael Gallup is just kind of taking up, right? We're missing
Dude,
Zeke
that dude dropped 2 touchdown passes this weekend. 2.
And this is not uncommon for him. This has been season after season of mediocrity. And we can't have mediocrity. If you expect that Dak can facilitate another wide receiver, look, Julio Jones just gets picked up to go to the Eagles, right? Julio Jones to the Eagles?
Jones to the Eagles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so strange, but it's what the Cowboys need. It's strange. We don't know. Look, I don't want to.
Oh, so you're saying that he should have gone to the Cowboys?
I'm saying if other teams are making plans, we should be too. We should be out there. We don't know.
But
Julio
Jones.
I'm not saying I want Julio Jones, but look, I'm not going to judge Julio by the fact that his last season with Tennessee. I want to give him another shot. Okay, I do. I want to be fair. I like to look at your situation. Was it a bad relationship? Was there not enough NARM there? Okay, but back to you. I did fact check. And as always, Howard Bender, just like everything that you offer at the Fantasy Alarm, you are on point. October 31st, the same day as Halloween, when I will be locked in my apartment, will not walk outside for an I will not break the seal on my door other than to go to the gym and get back in, but it's in the building. I will not be leaving. Halloween scares me. So that's trade deadline.
Wait. What? Why does Halloween scare you?
People scare me as is, let alone when they get to put a mask on and I don't get to see them coming.
Yeah.
So like, and like people are wilding out in the street. Guy almost jumped on me walking back from getting a massage last night. Out of nowhere, he came out of nowhere and he was just yelling and he kind of like ran behind me and then he stood in front of me and everybody else was just like walking like New Yorkers do. Nothing's going on here. Just walking around. This guy's going nuts. I'm thinking, this is what this same guy could do to me in a mask on Halloween. And I would just lay down on the sidewalk and cry. At least being able to see his face, I looked at his eye. I'm like, nope, I get away from this guy. Run home,
What about not even like a private Halloween party?
I have done those in the past, but it's trade deadline. So it's a day that I really want to be excited about. It's also, look at the calendar, what day it falls on, which is like a Tuesday. Trade deadline falls on waiver wire Tuesday. I mean, I don't need to do Halloween. I just need to see how this all works out for me. Okay. I need to look at my teams. I need to start initiating trades. I need to feel a temperature in some of my leagues. But let's talk about your girl, Britt Flynn, who is a musical genius and writes these incredible parody songs that, like, I'm so mad at the algorithm on TikTok for not pushing her further. I'm like sharing it. I'm like, this is quality social media entertainment. This is actually more of what we're there for than what we get. Britt Flynn's amazing.
Well, and that's the thing. And we kind of had this whole conversation. Were you listening to the show when she debuted the song?
I was not. I'm so sorry to say.
Well, there's no reason.
Was that
to
yesterday?
Apologize. Yeah, it was on yesterday's show.
Yes.
And and she performed it live for everybody. It was like this really just one of those like absolute beautiful moments when you're just like, wow, that was just great radio, and that happened. She's dominating. I don't know about the TikTok algorithm, but I mean, we're talking about, where is the I'm going to find the post on Twitter, because the Twitter sphere, this has gone
I have reposted it on Twitter as well. Yes.
Yeah, I saw you reposted, I reposted. I mean, a lot of people did it. We're almost at 120,000 views, right? And it's 62 reposts. It doesn't even count the quote posts that they do. But like I mean, listen, she's super creative. But the thing about Britt, and I was talking to my friend Chris about this, because Chris and his wife are big fans of Britt Flynn as well. And we were talking about the fact that it's you've got the football sense, you've got the football acumen, right? You can talk football, but to bring the entertainment factor to it as well, I mean, to me, that's huge. I mean, listen, anybody could sit here as like, like a talking head and spout off facts and stuff like that. But if you can't entertain while you're doing that, well, then like, what's your hook? What's your angle? Because nobody gets everything right. Nope. Nobody's going to tell you how to do the perfect draft, and nobody's going to tell you, that they never get anything wrong. So what's the allure, right? So if you're looking for a great football acumen, rock solid fantasy football takes, and the entertainment factor, I mean, Britt Flynn's got it all.
I agree. I really do. And you're so right, because I mean, I listen and watch sports radio or TV all day. And why do you think I'm so hooked on McAfee? He is so entertaining. I mean, he is just so ridiculously, you know who they had on yesterday as a guest? Yes, it was Aaron. The woman from the Chargers game.
Marianne Doe. Now, here's the question: is Marianne Doe? I know she's adamant about like not being a plant, but it seemed a little weird. Like, how did she get that suite? How was she in that suite, and that the camera was like focused in on her? I do understand the conspiracy theorist side of things, but yeah, I saw that she was on McAfee's show. I didn't hear the interview. How was it?
She was fantastic, and she warmed their heart. She's a mom of 4. She's like that at her kids' games. She was, explaining some messages she got from her friends. I don't know why this is a big deal. This is how you always are at games. And it was just passionate. She's been a Chargers fan for 20 years. Just a great history, but more than anything, Boston Connor from the show put out a tweet. It got over 15 million hits, talking about the fact that, like, conspiracy theory aside, let's just enjoy people for who they are and not be so sus, right? Everybody's so, but anyway, they had her on. You're right about the entertainment factor, and Britt has it. And it's just been cool because since you and I have known each other, Howard, we've seen so many different people join us in this fabulous space and everyone brings something different. I've gotten to watch a couple of Thursday night games with Lawrence Jackson. He brings something totally different. The way we talk sports, me and Steffi Smalls. I love Julia that I got to meet and draft with. We've stayed in touch since the draft for the Queen's Classic, but just great people. And if you're not already following Britt Flynn, please make sure you're following. I reposted the video last night. It was amazing. You're having a fantasy face-off contest, and this is one of the things I really want to talk about as well. For people who are 0-6 or 1-5. Now, I know you and I are in a lot of leagues, and I know that one thing you know about me, Howard, is I like to be very well-rounded in life, right? Mm-hmm. And with that said, I have some teams at the very bottom and some teams very close to the top, because I want to appeal to all audiences, and I do have a team that is now 0-6, and it's not injury, it's not my players. It is honestly who I am facing every week. I have matched up with that monster performance for 2 or 3 players in that league that by Thursday night, I'm already hit with I'm down 88 points, and they only played 3 players. So it's been one of those, but I'm still setting my lineup, taking advantage of the waiver priority. I'm still doing it, but it's a little embarrassing.
It's tough because you're in this industry, right? And so the expectations are a little higher. I'm 2-4 in the Jam On Fantasy Football League. And
that
the only person not giving me crap in that league is Steve Gardner, because he understands.
I want winners.
Hello, Brian Burns.
Are you telling us to leave, Brian? You want to do the show without us?
I have nothing but the highest regard for Brian Burns.
That drop is his crutch now.
It is.
But so of course the only person who's not giving me crap about it is Steve Gardner, because he understands that I lost Nick Chubb and I lost a couple of other players to injury, and so it was just so I'm sitting there at 2-4, and yeah, it never feels good. I gotta be honest, I suck at the Scott Fish Bowl. I'm so bad every year.
Me as well. And I do not love the platform either. Let me say that it's a drag. I'm really bad at it too. And I have Aaron Rodgers sitting there, and everybody took so many quarterbacks. There's really nobody there. And It's a travesty. It really is. But you know what I try to do is I try to go to my worst leagues first to start tinkering with my lineups. Because then I get out the pain and the angst, and then I get into leagues where I'm doing better and I feel a little better, and then I make another pass through. But I think giving that extra attention, I go in there and I'm like, there's no players on the waiver wire. None.
Well,
Absolutely.
that's another tough one there also, right? When you're like sitting there and you're just looking at the waiver wire and it's pick clean. Well, that's the thing also. I don't know how many leagues you play in, but I have 38 season long leagues where I'm doing like waivers and stuff like that. But I'm like constantly like doing shows and doing articles and whatever. So that like when breaking news breaks,
You go into your leagues right away and change it.
no, I don't go into when breaking news breaks. I'm over at Fantasy Alarm, like making sure that like, are we hitting this story here? We have an article. Who's doing what? Who's doing this? Make sure like hit the Discord. Everybody's going to start asking questions, stuff like that, that I never get a chance to go into my league and like be that person who picks up the guy first. Like you're at a disadvantage, being in several leagues. You're almost at a disadvantage because the expectations are just bonkers because you're doing this for a league, for a living. So, it is what it is. But listen,
I'm in that's a horrible sound. I'm in 20 leagues and you're in 38 leagues, which must take you a lot of time on waiver wire and also just setting lineups and that last minute news because you're working so hard Sunday morning, preparing everything, trying to help other people set their lineups on Twitter at RotoBuzz Guy, like all the things that you're doing. I think the leagues may be more of a problem than the Frankenberry.
Oh. And I say this every single year. Look at me.
You're so cute, right?
I am.
By the way, Brian was working so hard on that when I logged in today. He was like, I'm not ignoring you, but I'm working on something right now. I'm like, well, please show me the finished product. I loved it.
Frankenberry is the great. It's such a great cereal. It's so yummy.
Disgusting.
You know why? Because it's like eating a bowl of crunch berries with strawberry marshmallows in it.
It's all sugar and corn syrup. And
it's my one vice.
If it's your one vice, I'm fine. But I think 38 leagues.
You know what?
I wish you weren't a liar.
Look at me. Side view.
Oh, look at your svelte.
Side view.
I say svelte. Do I see svelte Howard right there? You are slim. It looks.
Look at the body.
Are you getting an in-season shape? Is that what's happening right now?
You know what? I started a diet. I got, super down on myself that, I was getting as big as I got. And I've just been really, really just diligent about being on this diet. I need to exercise because, it's just turning into like flab now, but I've lost, I don't even know because I've never weighed myself. So I have no idea how big I got or how much weight I've lost. I just know that I've lost some weight.
Sure, because your pants fit different. Everything fits different.
When my clothes don't even fit anymore. It's great. Man. They're like hanging on me. I feel so good about it. I'm like, all those t-shirts for, that's sitting in the back of my closet being like, well, one day I'll fit into that again. I'll lose the weight and I'll fit into that shirt. I'm fitting into those clothes right now, which has been, absolutely fantastic. And I've absolutely loved it. But I learned that I need to, while being adamant and cold turkey on everything, like no carbs, no refined sugar, or anything like that.
It's too much for anybody. It's too much.
Said that, listen, every once in a while, is it going to be that bad if I have something that's like
you enjoy
not dietetic and enjoy it? And so I have chosen the greatest cereal known to mankind. Let me get in here with him.
It's a child,
right? Aw, hey, buddy, how you doing? Good.
Here's what we got. We have all of you in the chat. We're so happy to see you here. I'm going to scroll back and catch up with anyone, but I had to catch up with Howard. But yes, maybe next year you say you're only going to do 35 leagues, but let's talk about this challenge you're doing. Fantasy Face Off for those who are 0-6 or 1-5. Let's talk about this Fantasy Alarm extravaganza.
All right, so here's the deal. So our friends over at rtsports.com have this contest. It's called the Fantasy Face Off. And here's the beauty of it. So this is it's an 8-team single elimination bracket style that goes over the course of 3 weeks. So the key, though, is that it's a one and done. So you
can only
can't
use each player 1 week. So you want to look at matchups in advance and say, I want to save, which is a bummer because sometimes you save a player and they get injured, but that's not the point.
Right. Well, see, I'm not going to worry about saving it. But so this is what we're doing on the Fantasy Alarm Show. And you guys out there, you can definitely get in on this as well. All right. We're qualifying teams that are 1-5, 0-6 in their season-long leagues. They've been hit with the injury bug. Bad luck, hard luck stories, like real down in the dumps sort of a thing. And so I am going to, so Fantasy Alarm is picking up the $20 entrance fee for each person in this contest. And it's 7 people competing against me. And it goes over 3 weeks. Now, the lineups are great because they're big lineups. It's 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers / tight end, a flex play, 2 kickers and 2 defenses. So big rosters. And then if you win, you advance to the next round. It's 3 rounds until at the end of the 3 weeks, you've got 1 team standing. They get all the money. And so what we're going to do is here on the Fantasy Alarm Show, we're qualifying people for it. If you don't get in this week, keep trying next week as well, because we're going to do this for the next 3 weeks. So you want to start practicing. If you don't qualify this week, your best bet is to go over there and practice. Go to rtsports.com/alarm. Use the promo code alarm23. You're gonna, if your first deposit, they're gonna match it up to $200. So rtsports.com/alarm, promo code alarm23. Sign up, practice, get your little match deposit there, get your free $200 in there. And then, you'll be all registered over there. It's the best way to just keep going. If you've lost season long, if you're having a hard time on DraftKings or FanDuel,
sure.
Stuff like that,
if you're frustrated, it's a fresh start. What you're doing, it's like the Febreze brothers from Other Guys, that movie. You're the Febreze brothers right now. You're giving everybody a fresh start, cool like Febreze. I get what you're doing. It's a super fun way to keep people engaged, still having some fun, still have a little skin in the game, and not give up, because we don't want people to give up and be frustrated over their team and not want to play. And we don't want you to take your ball and go home. We want you to keep playing. We're going to keep going as well. We're going to do our higher lower segment. I put those polls out on my timeline at the release. And
whoa!
Cliffhanger.
Are we drinking?
We are not drinking, but all the way from Sicily, the wine has arrived, is now in the U.S. This first run will be sold in New York. We'll tell you more after the break. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm.
Drunk. I'm drunk.
What can we expect for you out there on the track tonight?
Listen, I have a wife, 2 kids. I have, full-time jobs. I'm never nervous. I don't even know what that word means. Can you explain what nervous means? No. I'm ready to have fun. I've never done anything like this before. I got asked to be a part of this. This is fascinating. Like, it's so cool to just look around and see what goes on here. So I'm just excited to get out on the horse. And you want trash talk? Is that what you're asking me for? No trash talk. I hope everyone does well.
All right. Everyone's going to do well, but it has to be a winner. So give me your trifecta. Who's going to come in first, second, and third? Heat.
I will go Maria 1, me 2, Willie 3, Moose goes 4th.
Well, it's very simple. I won this event last year. I won my heat, and so the defending champ has to be the favorite. Now, that makes me a little nervous just because I feel like it's hard to repeat. There's a little pressure when you're the favorite, but that being said, I'm still optimistic.
So your heat, it's you,
yes.
Moose and Keith from Bettor Sports Network, and Willie Colon.
I think Keith might be my stiffest competition, and I asked for this because I actually recruited Keith, if you didn't know. So Keith, if you win, you're welcome.
Malusis is very good. I mean, he knows what he's doing, but I'm going to go with Maria.
Keith is waving to the crowd. He must pay attention because they're off. It's Mark Malusis going for the lead. Maria Marino on the outside, and now Keith Irizarry on the outside with speed, and they're 3 wide into the first turn. Woo! Mark Malusis is locked in for his life. 138-2. They're into the stretch. Sportscasters Derby 2. And still in front, Keith Irizarry. And now Mark Malusis is trying to squeeze on through. Come on! Back! Come on! Let's go! Come on, dig it! Dig it! Yeah! Keith Irizarry. Keith, you did it all the way, wire to wire, over Mark Malusis.
Awesome! That was so cool. The champ is here. Keith, what was it like being out there? Adrenaline rush. You were doing the Instagram live, so there was no panic. You looked cool, calm, collected the whole time, and you won it.
I felt really comfortable. I did. Like, I know you were joking with me before. Are you nervous? Are you whatever? What are you? David, the driver, was awesome. He's like, we're gonna win this. I said, all right, let's win this. And he said, let's go. Yeah, I just felt really comfortable. I did. It was fun. We're in the lead. I got Maria Marino on the right side of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna beat us, right? And then out of nowhere, you see Moose coming up this way, and we feel him breathing down our neck. And I'm like,
Moose
no!
on the loose, watch out.
Moose was definitely on the loose, and we just got Moose by a neck, a nose, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but again, all of this for a great cause, and it was absolutely awesome to do this. It was cool.
All right, Keith, congratulations, and no matter what, you could always hold this over Moose's head.
Yeah!
And we are back right here. Lisa Ann and Howard Bender for Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor. Howard, I think you should do this show with the glasses on. You look so good in those. Did you wear them to the Pumpkin Festival?
I did not. I don't normally, I usually wear my contact lenses, when I'm doing shows here. But like when I'm like just kind of wandering around, just being me, I live in my glasses. So
They look good on you. I like them
Thank
a
you.
lot. All right, Wendy just entered the room and already used this shades emoji to go with your shades. Let's catch up with our friends over here in the chat because I think we've got a couple important ones. Let's talk about it. We've got Josh who says just traded Josh Downs and Jonnu for Jacoby in a 20-man. Oh my gosh, bless your soul, Josh. 20-man PPR. I have Kmet at tight end and Downs was a flex. Was that a good trade?
I think it was a great trade. I definitely do. I don't believe in like much staying power for Jonnu Smith, and Cole Kmet's going to be your lead tight end anywhere. I like Josh Downs. I think Josh Downs is a decent player. You're talking about a guy who Gardner Minshew kind of leans on. He scored his first touchdown this past week, but Jacoby Myers, to me, he's like at a little bit of a different level. Like Josh Downs to me is a poor man's Jacoby Myers, because Myers, I mean, that dude runs such clean routes, has such great hands. And I mean, he's taken over completely, not to mention the fact that the Raiders, they always use not always, but a majority of the time they use a fullback, right? Or a two tight end set. So what happens is you're only going with two wide receivers instead of three. So you're lining up. Myers is always on the field. Great snap count. When you're in a two receiver set for the Colts, it's usually Alec Pierce on there with Michael Pittman, and Josh Downs comes in and works the slot. He's got a good snap count, but not a great snap count. Jacoby Myers has a great snap count. I love Jacoby Myers. I think this is a great deal for you.
Josh, that's a great move. And I guess that's what you have to do, because in a 20-man PPR league, you're obviously not finding any viable players on the waiver wire, right?
No, I can't even imagine who like the number one waiver claim is. Even in a week like this, when we're like digging through like the Rams backfield and trying to sort that out, I can't even imagine that any of those guys were even on the waiver wire this week.
Byron says hello and says that Richardson's style of play, he said playing style did him in, and that was something that you talked about, Howard Bender.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is mobile quarterbacks who don't know how to slide. That's what it comes down to. And
Yep.
Jim Bob Cooter said it also. He was like, we're not going to get him to change his style. This is the guy that we drafted. What we have to do is we have to teach him how to slide. And there's a time to fight for yardage, and there's a time to give yourself up. In this case here, he's just all right, what are you going to do? I mean, these things happen.
Patrick Mahomes has the best slide in the NFL. He knows exactly when to do it. He knows exactly when to drop backwards so that no defenders are going to come at him. He gets enough extra yards, but doesn't get greedy. And he clarifies, I'm going down. Do not break me. And I think it's just his baseball skill set, right?
Yeah.
Because he played baseball as well. We've learned from our friend Scott that there is a 3-day tomato festival in my area, Washington Borough, famous for the best home tomatoes. Now we've got to tour around and see massive pieces of veggies and fruits.
Oh, I mean, listen, you could go from like Pumpkin Fest down to Gilroy for the Garlic Festival over there. And then there's also I think if we go even further, where there's like the artichoke capital of the world is up here.
This
in
is
Northern
damn
California
exciting
too.
stuff.
Thanks, Brian. We're glad you're enjoying it.
I know, right?
I hope your mom comes in soon so we can
I hope
settle
your
you
mom
down
comes
a
in
little
and
bit.
slaps you down.
How
Burns.
dare you?
Yeah, how dare you?
Okay, so Better Boss did not even know that they still made Frankenberry, so he's probably at the store right now getting him. Better Boss also says, Michael Gallup truther over here. Looks like I was wrong. I am ready to cut the cord. I think your vibes, Better Boss, should be Jerry Jones's vibes because October 31st cannot come fast enough. Throw him out somewhere. Could be a good player on a not so good team, but if we're expected to be a good team, he is our weakest link.
He's a pretty big weak link. There's no doubt about that. There really isn't. I just, listen, I mean, he's okay. He's not the greatest. There was a lot of potential there. I mean, that dude was like the most targeted guy on the field on Monday night. And again, the 2 drops in the end zone weren't great.
Weren't great. They were awful in a standalone game. I've got to feel that pain.
Some people were like, well, Dak was at fault for one of them, and it wasn't really that easy of a catch to make. My feeling is, and maybe this is just me, but if the ball hits a receiver in the hands, there's no reason that the receiver should not come down with it. Like, I don't care, whatever, out of bounds or, diving or whatever, you should be catching that ball.
You can look at playmakers like DeAndre Hopkins, Dez Bryant when he was in the league, playmakers like Michael Irvin, who no matter what, did what it took to bring the ball in. We've got another trade here from Alex. Trade Bijan and Garrett Wilson for Kamara and AJ Brown. It is a PPR league.
Wait, who is that again? Garrett Wilson and
Bijan Robinson for
Kamara and AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
It's a nice step up from. I can't quit Bijan. I get it. It's frustrating right now. Arthur Smith is driving you up a wall. Bijan running 45 routes instead of just getting 45 carries like you should be feeding him. I get it. It's frustrating. Kamara's, you're going to have Jamal Williams coming back, so he's going to start probably getting some short yards. He's going to fill that Mark Ingram role that we've seen run there in New Orleans.
And it's weird because I look at Garrett Wilson, not the team, the player. I look at Garrett Wilson as almost the better receiver. I love AJ Brown as well, but I think Garrett Wilson but when I look at the teams, I'm like, well, AJ Brown is on a better team.
Yeah. Yeah. I
better
mean,
quarterback.
It's a fair deal. And if you are that concerned, if you're super concerned about Bijan's usage right now, and you genuinely don't believe that he's going to get the lion's share of carries moving forward, then make the deal. Then definitely make the deal because, AJ Brown is a huge target in Philadelphia, and Alvin Kamara is still that lead guy. And if it's you said it's a PPR, which is where Alvin Kamara makes his money.
Now, one of the things you'll hear a lot of analysts and broadcasters in the fantasy sports space talk about when you're getting questions, whether it's phone calls, whether it's tweets, you got to give us the right information, because we have a question here, Howard, that is impossible for us to answer. You know why? Because we don't have the crystal ball, though we both have a magic 8-ball. We don't have the crystal ball. We don't know who's on the waiver wire. The question is, hello, 10-team PPR, best defense and kicker you would think would be available. Can't really answer that because we can't see the waiver wire. You would need to hit us back with the top 4 defenses and the top 4 kickers, and we'll tell you. I don't know about you, but when I'm playing the kicker game, I'm always going to choose a kicker in a dome versus a kicker outside, because it's just one less thing to worry about.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. And as far as defenses go, you want a home team defense, because you're feeding off of the waiver wire right now, which means that, some of the top defenses, they're not being given up. So you kind of have to figure out their home team. I tell you what, some people think I'm a little nutso for this, but I kind of like that Bucks defense this week against Atlanta.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I figure they're probably sitting out there on the waiver wire. That just might be somebody to look at.
So again, when you mention that, that's going to affect Bijan Robinson's performance again this week.
Well,
are you not as worried about the run defense? Or are you more worried about the secondary?
No, I think I'm fine. I think it's the secondary. I think that, I think they're trying to get Desmond Ridder to throw the ball more, and it's terrible. I mean, you can't run up the gut against Vita Vea anyway.
True.
Right. So it's all about your outside zone game. And I think that favors Bijan over Tyler Algier, who's the much more bruising running back who goes between the tackles. Bijan could go between the tackles, yes, but if you're running an outside zone scheme, Bijan definitely is in a much better spot against Tampa Bay and their run defense. But yeah, I think that this Tampa Bay secondary is going to give Desmond Ridder some fits when he's like, he thinks that he should be throwing the ball when he shouldn't be.
We got 2 more questions here, and then we're going to go through news and notes and talk about a couple of things. One of the questions is Ramondre Stevenson going to play this week?
Well, I don't know.
We don't know that yet.
I don't know.
That's questionable. We don't know.
And
I'm sure the doctor's sleeping right now to make sure that he can check on him again tomorrow. These are things that the best thing for you to do is sign up at the Fantasy Alarm. You're never going to miss an update. Just get your reading in, whether you do it in the morning, you do it in the evening, and just stay on top of it, because a lot of the questions you have might be the same questions we have. We won't have answers till we see what happens Friday with that last practice report, walkthrough, what have you. And then also a lot of last minutes on Sundays. So if you're going to set lineups, like when my friends invite me to brunch on football season, I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, I just can't do brunch. Like, what are you talking about? I would like to have 3 devices going, so I make sure I'm looking at all the lineups that have certain players. And the last question from our better boss, if Trevor Lawrence is active, do you put him in your lineup? Concerning, because we do know that Jacksonville brought in another quarterback today.
Well, who did they bring in today?
Let me look it up for you, and I will tell you. So you answer better, boss, while I do this.
Because, listen, I heard that Trevor Lawrence is supposed to play. I'm not really, I'm not overwhelmingly concerned.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have signed Nathan Rourke.
Yeah, they brought
from
him
the
up from the
practice squad to the active roster the team announced today.
I think that's probably more on the lines of the team being cautious that if Trevor Lawrence were to take a hit, then they would have that extra option there. CJ Beathard would have a backup there. Rourke is sitting on the practice squad. He knows the scheme. I mean, it's something that you have to watch right up until the last minute. Trevor Lawrence is that important of a player to the Jacksonville Jaguars that if he is kind of hedging a little bit, if he's not 100% or he's not able to go, then they're not going to play him. They're not letting him diagnose himself. They're going to test him out and they're going to double check and make sure that he's okay. And also, obviously, better boss, who are your other options? Like,
true.
Who's your other QB?
That's
your
what
other
I want to know
QB
too.
Tyler Bagent? Because if it's Bagent, then you're always starting like half of Trevor Lawrence over him.
To remind everybody, we've got 6 teams on bye this week. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm sure Joe Burrow's calf is happy about that. We've got my Dallas Cowboys, so we can hear Jerry Jones talking how disappointed he was at the play calling. We've got the Tennessee Titans, who just got back from London who need a break. We've got your New York Jets that get to celebrate going on the bye after beating the Philadelphia Eagles. The Carolina Panthers, nobody really cares. And the Houston Texans also on bye, who are surprising all of us. Right from the Houston Texans to Deshaun Watson, what is going on? And when are we going to see him on the field? And with this delay and him getting back out there, how uncomfortable are we supposed to be to put him in our lineups if he's good to go? Because if you recall, there was some confusion last week. Doctor said he's fine. Deshaun Watson said he wasn't. Like, it's weird. We're getting a lot of weird. What's happening? What happens to quarterbacks in Cleveland? What happened?
Didn't practice today either. So not practicing today kind of tells me that we're not going to see Deshaun Watson. I don't really know the situation that's going on. There's something that we don't know. There's something happening behind the scenes. What's that?
Something's fishy.
Something is fishy.
Something's fishy.
Something stinks in Denmark right there.
I'm not feeling that we're getting the truth. You know,
I
I'm
don't think
not
we're
feeling
getting the
like
truth
it
either. Can you imagine guaranteeing all of that money to Deshaun Watson and now he's like, I can't play. It's my shoulder.
Yeah, it's a strange situation. It affects the playmakers, but I benched Amari Cooper last week and he actually had a pretty good performance. So if Deshaun Watson doesn't play, do we feel comfortable now putting out those wide receivers, or do we just keep them on our bench and think that first game for PJ Tucker was fluky?
PJ Walker,
sorry.
PJ Tucker is a basketball player. I see somebody getting ready for some NBA.
Yes. Been watching.
I actually don't mind PJ Walker this week. Against Indianapolis. Not good cover corners in Indy. Their pass defense, their run defense is mediocre at best. Their pass defense is soft. They funnel everything. Everything gets pushed to the outside, and their cover corners aren't strong. So
you get Amari Cooper, you get Elijah Moore, you get some good plays going there. So we don't have to be as stressed about all of our playmakers. But I thought it was the educated decision to not take that chance week one with.
I mean, you didn't know.
I didn't know. Didn't know. I couldn't go on his IG and find a bunch of film that he shot. Like, people put out their best hits. And I'm like, okay, this guy can throw the ball. There was nothing. Daniel Jones, Deb, this is not an easy season. Sorry. Tyrod Taylor or Tyrod, however he wants us to say it, will be out there slinging it again. Look, Taylor didn't look too bad week one, but another player, we're talking about two quarterbacks that secured the bag, and both of them dealing with different injuries. I worry a little bit more about Daniel Jones with the neck, because the neck can become serious, right? The back, the neck. We remember how it started with Tony Romo and how it ended with Tony Romo.
Yeah. Now, Daniel Jones did put in a limited practice, or at least he was scheduled to be in a limited practice here today. So I'm not 100% sure of what we're looking at. I mean, obviously, no. Like, you're not. How bad is this that, like, the quarterback position is falling apart as badly as the running back position right now? Daniel Jones is out. You're dealing with, I don't know what.
Anthony Richardson is out.
Anthony Richardson's out. Jimmy Garoppolo likely out again this week because of the concussion. So, I mean, or the back injury. So we're dealing with a lot of kind of shaky stuff. I'm not bullish on the Giants anyway. Saquon Barkley's a must start no matter what. Wan'Dale Robinson, I'm okay with. I'm actually okay with him because he sees a bunch of targets. And if you're playing in a PPR format,
that's up.
What do you have, like 8 or 9 catches this past week? So, it works for you there. Darius Slayton is the stretch the field type of guy and hope that he scores a touchdown. We can't rely on that. So,
no.
Yeah, with Daniel Jones out or potentially out, Barkley and Wan'Dale Robinson, probably the only two. I'm not even in on Darren Waller.
No, I am not on Darren Waller in this situation. Another quarterback right here would be, we talked about it earlier. We know that Anthony Richardson is going to undergo shoulder surgery and will be out for this season. Let's talk about the Cardinals. They designated Kyler Murray to return from injured reserve. This would be, when exactly do we actually see Kyler Murray out there? And do we trust Kyler Murray? Because for the past 2 seasons, I would draft a lot of Kyler Murray. I would keep him till about week 6, and then I'd start trading him away because he kind of got slower. He had great rushing ability the first 5-6 weeks of the season. And then I think he just realized, like, oh, my body hurts. and that's it. So we had a question here. Drop Justin Fields for Kyler. I just can't say yes. I would, as good and as bad as Justin Fields is finding his way on the field again this season, not being as consistent as you like, I still think there's more upside with Justin Fields than Kyler Murray, who we know even less about now that he's been out for so long with an injury.
He's been out for so long, and he's coming back. And I know he put in a practice today, and I know that he posted on his Instagram account that he was practicing today, and we saw the video of him kind of motoring out there. They did activate him off of IR. They do have 3 weeks to decide whether or not to put him onto that active roster. So there's no guarantee even that he's that he's able to play or that he's going to play this week. I'm not dropping Justin Fields for him.
No, I'm not dropping a quarterback that is healthy and is playing right now for him.
Yeah,
but if I had this space that I wanted to tuck him on my bench, which I never would, because again, October 31st is going to roll around fast, and it's going to be interesting to see what teams do blow up some of their receivers and move them to other places, some of their running backs and move them. So without James Conner, that really affects Kyler Murray. But I was thinking it would be 3-4 weeks before we even saw him activated to the next level active roster.
Yeah. I'm waiting on that a little bit.
The Bears signed quarterback Trace McSorley to their practice squad. Why do I love that name? Why does it sound like something from the Goonies or something? Like our teacher, Mr. McSorley. Doesn't it? It's kind of sound like, okay.
Right? I could sit there and tell you how many times I've gotten thrown out of McSorley's in New York.
Oh. And were you doing bad things, Howard?
Back in my drinking days, Lisa Ann, back in my drinking days.
Those were never
Drunk.
good stories.
I'm drunk.
Packers, Aaron Rodgers. Packers running back Aaron Jones with his hamstring was back at practice on Wednesday. Do you have any love for the running back room in Green Bay at this moment? Do you think Aaron Jones is going to come back and make a difference?
Dude, he's going up against Denver this week. Their run defense is atrocious. They're giving up the most rushing yards per game. Where's the number? Here's the number. 172.3 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 8 rushing touchdowns on the year. If Aaron Jones is in there, we're going to be talking about the DFS watch list in a little bit. He might be on the cover.
I like it very much. Okay, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reports that Kyren Williams, who has gotten me so far in the Queen's Classic with his ankle, is expected to be missed multiple games, but should be back at least after week 10 bye. I don't know if I can hold on with all these teams on bye. I don't know what I'm going to do. And this is a 14-team league where I have him. I have him in a couple other spots too. I got to check and see what our IR situation is. Oh yeah, we do have an IR spot, so I could put him on IR, but do I want to do that? I guess I probably will, just so that if he comes back, no one else has him, right? But what a bummer. This kid's season was just unbelievable.
I mean, it's a high ankle sprain, right? So he's out for a couple of weeks. It's not a season-ending injury. I think, just take a look at the running back room for the Rams right now. You can't tell me that you don't, Kyren Williams out for 3 weeks, maybe 4. You can't tell me that he's not going to get his job back immediately.
Oh, you're right.
Zach Evans.
Yeah, they got rid of Cam Akers. They already got rid of Cam Akers. So there's no worry about him getting his groove back as soon as he gets back out.
No, because look at the thing. You've got Zach Evans, who was already there, right? They've got Royce Freeman on the practice squad, and yet they still went out and added Myles Gaskin, and they re-signed Darrell Henderson, who. They were like, yeah, bye-bye. You
didn't like Darrell Henderson while you had him.
Right.
And now you brought him back.
Sitting on his front porch, sipping on some lemonade, and the phone rings, and he's like, oh, yeah, no problem, Rams. I'll come. Why not? Here we go.
Porch lemonade. I picture him more on Twitch becoming a massive gamer like all these other players do when they're not on the field and they're just gaming with randos.
Let me have my old man moment, please, Shay. Please.
Hey, everybody, an old man's talking.
Did you paused for that little drop?
I did. I love that drop.
I love it.
Are you going to have an old man moment?
I just did. I just
right.
did. Porch,
Quick.
lemonade. Stop with the Twitch. Stop with the gaming. It's like
Okay, I get it now.
brain.
I
You're
get
rotting
it.
your brain.
Okay,
I'll tell
you're
you.
probably thinking on that porch with lemonade, he has a pager and he's waiting for somebody to page him from a team because he
No,
doesn't
he's
have a
got
cell phone.
like an old school rotary phone, right? Like just sitting there, just waiting for it to ring. Picks up right here. 4, 5, 9.
That was so difficult with fingernails. So you had to use a pen because you couldn't use your fingernails in the
Oh yeah,
rotary
you're
phone.
like my grandma. She was like that. She was just like, I ain't got
Pen.
my nails in.
All right, speaking of pens, important things, grandmas, rotary phones, I want to remind you to get the Fantasy Alarm All Pro subscription. Unlock all the content for sports, including annual draft guides, get one-on-one expert access in Discord, League Sync, analyze matchups and trends in your leagues, lineup generator integrated with Fanjections, daily, weekly rankings, value vault, position coaches, waiver wire projections, stats and tools, all of this and more. Get everything that Fantasy Alarm offers. Get a all pro and now save an extra $100 a year when you unlock all access all year. Use promo code LOCK at fantasyalarm.com/lock. Again, that's fantasyalarm.com/lock. We're going to lock in a quick break. When we get back from this break, we got so much to get to. Do we go to I did okay in the DK challenge this week. I want to talk about it. We got our higher lower. We've got our points totals. This is flying by. So we will rush back from this break. All of you, if you have any trade questions or any lineup questions, things that we can answer, we can't really tell you if a player's coming back from injury until we actually know, and we're not holding anything back. So if you got some good questions there, throw them in. We'll touch base with them a couple minutes after we get back from the break. You're listening to Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor with Howard Bender on the Bettor Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm.
Oh boy, we got a big one. We got a big card here. We got
baby, let's go.
We got a super rookie.
Ooh.
Do you guys want to guess who the big card super rookie is? Because
I'm going to guess somebody from the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't recall who were rookies in those particular years. So I'm going to guess Michael Irvin.
Adam?
Jared kind of convinced me to go Troy Aikman there.
I'm going to read the description. In this player's NFL debut, September 10th, 1989, he produced an electrifying 68-yard punt return for a touchdown.
Sanders.
He became the first athlete in the 20th century to hit a home run, September 5th, 1989, for the Yankees at Seattle, and score a touchdown in the same week.
That needs a sleeve. That one needs a sleeve.
Top
100%.
super rookie, neon, prime time, Deion Sanders.
I wasn't that far off. He played for the Cowboys.
I was going to say Deion, and then when you said the early 90s Cowboys, I'm like, oh, Aikman would be a good guess. So I go with your gut is the lesson there.
And there it is, the white and red Falcon jerseys that you said Deion came in with before they changed to black.
That was because the starting lineup for Deion his rookie year has got the red helmet with the white jersey.
Now look at that do. I mean, are you kidding me with that hair?
I mean, you got to have a headband with those curls. You got to.
That is sick. And this is a favorite card. Do we have any value on this card? We have to, right?
Let's see.
Give me a value here.
Let's see here on eBay. PSA 10 gem mint Deion Sanders, $149.99. And then a 9.5 is $6. So that guy might be a little bit then there's a much more reasonably listed one at $31 for a PSA 10. So it's got some value to it. Yeah, you might want to protect that one.
It's in excellent condition. I guess we have to worry about, is it centered?
Yes, that would be the next thing.
All right, well, we'll go through the process there. Maybe I'll just frame that one as a great moment in this show's history.
We are back right here. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor with myself, Lisa Ann, and my co-host, Howard Bender, Fantasy Alarm and Bettor Network. I got one for you right here. This is how we're going to start off this hour. Why did the fantasy football player bring a ladder to the draft?
Why did the fantasy football player bring a ladder to the draft? So he could climb up the rankings?
Because he wanted to draft a sleeper pick from the top bunk. Okay. So, I use ChatGPT every day for a ton of things, but my girlfriend Joanna only uses ChatGPT for jokes. So we'll be out places and she'll see somebody and she'll just start, I know what she's doing. She's putting some cues in for ChatGPT and she's going to spall out a joke. So I had to throw that one out there. So joking over.
That's great.
Let's hit the DFS challenge. Do you know where you landed, Howard Bender? And for all of you, I've been putting a link out on my timeline at The Real Lisa Ann. It's a free challenge, 200 players. You win the exciting bragging rights. And we all want bragging rights. We all want to win something. Where did you land, Howard?
I think I was in 86th. I think my team finished this week. My biggest problem with last week was I invested in that Seattle-Cincinnati game thinking that game was going to pop, and it did not, not even close. And then my sleeper tight end, Logan Thomas, had one catch for 2 yards. So it was a little bit of a struggle there. I did have Raheem Mostert everywhere. My cash lineups did beautifully. My GPP lineups, which I put into this one here, not so hot.
Well, I, for once, beat you, which is pretty exciting. I landed in the 44th spot. Now, I'm not proud. The winner, which I'll read his lineup next, had 171.2 points, whereas I had a measly 138.20. I did play Tyrod Taylor. He was cheap, and I thought,
what are you doing? That's a dirty play. That's horrible.
10.4 points. I played Ezekiel Elliott, got me 11.9. I played Kamara, got me 17.4. Of course, Tyreek Hill, 31.3. Josh Palmer wasn't what we expected him to be. Only gave me 10 points, buddy. Drake London, my first time the entire season. For some reason, I just had this feeling. I was like, I wasn't into Kyle Pitts or Drake London this year. I haven't played them. Let me just play him. He gives me 24.5. Evan Ingram, 11.1. Chris Olave, 16.6. And the Dolphins defense, which gave me a frostbite. Nobody wants frostbite, but our winner, his screen name, which I think is a stage name, it's XX Angel ODCXX. He played Desmond Ridder, 22 points. Raheem Mostert, 37.2 points. Bijan Robinson, 13 points. Amari Cooper, 17.8 points. Adam Thielen, 31.5. Drake London, 24.5. Logan Thomas, 1.2. Jamar Chase, 14. And the Texans defense for 10 points.
Interesting.
You got to be.
Those are just dirty quarterback plays, though, right? Come on.
Sometimes you got to do weird things.
Yeah, you do. But you know what? For the same, again, it depends on what you're doing with your DFS thing. I put out the watch list every week, and we'll talk about that at some point here. But when you're building, for me, when you're playing DFS, I'm not a 20 lineup guy. I like to build one solid cash lineup, and I play that in all my 50-50s.
Okay.
And I win because you only have to finish in the top half.
Right.
Occasionally I'll have a bad week, but overall I win my cash games. The GPP tournaments, that's where you got to get a little weird sometimes. And there's getting weird because you got to get a little weird sometimes. And then there's just kind of throwing weird darts out there. I can't use Desmond Ridder with good conscience because I know that it's a run first scheme and there's not a high ceiling for him. I get it. You're getting value at a cheap price, but are you getting enough value, getting enough upside to really, to do it on a consistent basis? I get it. The dude won with Desmond Ridder sitting in his lineup, and that's, kind of happens. But how many points did he score?
Desmond Ridder?
No.
Total 171 something.
171. Okay. It was a low scoring week this week.
It was.
Is. like the top lineup, like if you go to, if you look at the watch list right now, I give you what the optimal lineup out of the playbook would have been, right? And that was it was like 205 and change. And so like, then we match that up and we see where you would have finished in other contests, had you done that. 205, you would have been absolutely crushing it. So you think about it here, a 175 lineup, it wins this contest here of 200 people. But like, where is that going to fall in like the grand scheme of things of like GPP tournaments? It's
trash.
Unless you're playing with like an entry fee of like $1,000 or the 555, the 333, whatever like that, then those pay lines tend to be lower than like the big ginormous, ones like that. So, it's always about, for me, I like having like my core guys, both cash and GPP, and I try to get a little bit different when it comes to GPP tournament lineups, but the matchup has to be so chef's kiss for me to like really bite into using a chump like Desmond Ridder.
Well, you just said take a bite out of it because you want to win something. What if I told you get a price match of up to $500 for your first deposit?
Oh.
Is that something that would intrigue you? Let me tell you more.
Only if it's Underdog Fantasy, I am.
Pick 'em on Underdog Fantasy by choosing higher or lower on 2 to 5 of your favorite players' stats. 3 correct picks, it's 6 times the entry fee. 4 correct picks, it's 10 times the entry fee. 5 correct picks, it's 20 times the entry fee. All you need to do is sign up at fantasyalarm.com/underdog with the promo code ALARM. Okay, again, I'll read this. Fantasyalarm.com/underdog, promo code ALARM. First time depositors get 100% match up to $500. This is the time of the season where you do this. And this is the time of the show where we do this. So I put my first one in here as Matt Stafford on Underdog Fantasy. 269.5 passing yards. We've got 90 votes. 56.7 said higher. And 43.3 said lower. Now the Rams are facing the Pittsburgh Steelers this week at home at SoFi. I thought a lot more of Pittsburgh before these past couple of weeks, but I still think a lot of their defense. Not having Kyren Williams in the fold, something that Matthew Stafford's gotten very used to this season. How do you think this plays out? Howard Bender, are you on higher or lower? And for all of you out here, would you go higher or lower on this at Underdog Fantasy? The total is 269.5 passing yards for one Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I kind of like this. I don't love the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And we saw a lot, obviously. The funny thing about last week was that Stafford had 185 passing yards and 1 touchdown before the half. And then what did they do? They ran the ball with Kyren Williams the entire second half.
Which is most likely why he's injured right now, Howard.
Probably.
Balance,
so I don't think
balance.
I don't think they do that with the Zach Evans, Royce Freeman, Darrell Henderson, Myles Gaskin foursome that they've got there. So I'll say higher for Matthew Stafford here against Pittsburgh. 269.5. Yeah, I'm gonna go higher.
Matthew Stafford just having a great second act to his career in Los Angeles, right? I mean, minus injury, he has played consistently since he got there. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm staying in LA with one Cooper Kupp, who I never thought would come back from injury and be like the same, like amazing Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp this week, again, the same matchup we just mentioned, Pittsburgh defense. We thought a lot more of them before the season started. Now we know who they are. The total receiving yards for Cooper Kupp on Underdog Fantasy is 98.5 receiving yards. So 101 votes here. 64.4% said higher than 98.5 receiving yards. And 35.6% said lower. For those of you just coming in the room, don't forget, go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog. Use the code ALARM and get a 100% price match. First depositors only up to $500. So let's do this one. Cooper Kupp, higher or lower? 98.5 receiving yards.
Pittsburgh Steelers ranked 22nd in DVOA against the opposition's number 1 wide receiver. They're giving up an average of 100.5 receiving yards to them. Cooper Kupp, there's nothing average about Cooper Kupp. I'm gonna say higher.
I like it. I'm going higher as well. Everyone in the room here is going higher as well. Byron just said Steelers defense does get turnovers, though, Lisa. He's addressing that to me, not you, Howard.
They do get some turnovers, absolutely. Steelers defense at home, rock solid. Steelers defense on the road,
not so great. Okay, we got another one here. Now, because I only played this player once so far this whole season, I'm afraid to play him for the rest of the season. And that would be one Drake London. And the numbers right here at Underdog Fantasy, it's only 52.5 receiving yards. Are you a believer? Are you believing? Because right now with 97 votes, we got 56.7 that say higher for Drake London's 52.5 receiving yards and 43.3 that say lower. What says you, Howard Bender? Because I'm scared of this kid. You know what I mean? I did well 1 week. I don't want to go back to the well.
Yeah. I kind of like, because I said it earlier, I like the Tampa Bay defense anyway. I'm going to say lower for Drake London. I feel like for Atlanta to be successful, they gotta stop getting stupid cute with Bijan Robinson. Just let him tote the rock, let him carry the football, run those outside zone plays, work away from Vita Vea. I think that's what you want to do. You just don't want to put the ball into Desmond Ridder's hands. He's not a great quarterback. So, and I know that there have been some grumblings that maybe if Desmond Ridder plays a crap game like he just did this past week, that they'll swap into Taylor Heineke. I think that's just that talk has been speculative fantasy talk. I don't think that that's like actual legit talk that's happening around the Atlanta Falcons. So I'll say lower for Drake London here.
I'm with you on that one. This was one of your picks, Howard. You had a vibe about one Brian Robinson Jr. Am I correct? 56.5 rushing yards. We had 83 votes right here on the poll. 67.5 said higher and 32.5 said lower. Again, everybody, this is on Underdog Fantasy, and it's Brian Robinson Jr., 56.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, I'm going to say higher for Brian Robinson, 56.5 rushing yards. The Giants give up the second most rushing yards per game, 147.5. They've given up 9 rushing touchdowns on the year. You know that they like giving Brian Robinson the volume. They're not really like Antonio Gibson is such an afterthought. I also love the fact that Robinson gets into into the passing game there as well. So it just makes him a more dynamic player. To give me 57 yards for Brian Robinson against the Giants, who are giving up 3 times that on the ground. Yeah, Brian Robinson higher than 56.5.
What happened to the Giants defense of last season? I mean, holy moly. Do you remember how good Xavier McKinney was? He's been quiet this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been kind of sad. It's been sad.
Yeah, so they were good for like 5 minutes. Then we're done.
Well, we got one more here, and that is Kenneth Walker. You've got Kenneth Walker as one of your plays, and it is 0.5 rushing / receiving touchdowns. This is a combo play at Underdog Fantasy, which you can get involved in, fantasyalarm.com/underdog. Use the promo code ALARM if you are a new depositor. They will match up to 100%, up to $500 of free money. So just go there and do that. But what do you got right here? We had 101 votes. 78.2 said higher for Kenneth Walker, and 21.8 said lower.
Come on, you're telling me Kenneth Walker's not going to get it on the end zone here against the Arizona Cardinals? Come on. Arizona, on the ground, they've given up 8 rushing touchdowns. Through the air, the Arizona Cardinals have given up 9 passing touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, I love this guy. Absolute stud muffin of a running back. K9, baby, gets into the end zone this week. Higher here.
His arms are just insane.
Mine used to look like that back in the day.
I mean, they are
I wish you weren't a liar.
Shut up, Brian Burns.
Okay, so before we go over to the DFS watch list at Fantasy Alarm, we're going to talk about some of the new questions we have here in the chat real quick. We'll get through these. Britt Flynn came in late and most likely did not hear us raving about her, but we were, Britt, and we're happy you're here. And Britt said, this is what we were talking about, the rotary phone. Britt said, I'll do you one better. I grew up with a party line. Do you remember party lines?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You would like sit there and like listen in. It was like, the cross-wired connection so you could hear somebody else talking. And then you'd be like, what the hell's going on here? Who is this on the phone?
Who is this? Why are you talking? We got one from Chandler. Chandler wants to know if they should trade away Burrow, Amari, Debo, Kittle. Did Herbert and St. Brown. My lineup would be Herbert, Pollard, Etienne, Keenan, at Brown, Evans. Oh, this is a really tough one to get through.
Yeah, right. Trade away Burrow, Amari, Debo, Kittle. Right?
I don't understand what the did Herbert.
Oh, did that for Herbert and St. Brown.
Oh, wow. You're really good at this. Do you have some sort of decoder in your eye?
I've been doing it. I mean, come on. This is like 20 years of just messaging.
You know what this was?
Taking crazy pills.
Take over. I mean, I see no sense in this. And you're like, oh, I know exactly what's happening here because I'm a pro.
He traded away Joe Burrow, Amari Cooper, Debo Samuel, and George Kittle. He picked up Justin Herbert and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So now his lineup is Herbert, Pollard, Etienne, Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike Evans, and then he's also got both Kmet and Ferguson at the tight end position. So listen, I love consolidation trades. Like that's the thing. You don't want to make lineup decisions every week. Put me out of business. Trade to you so that you have like a no-brainer starting lineup. Like you don't want to sit there and have to play matchups constantly with my wide receivers and stuff like that. So doing that, it takes that off the table for him. He's like locked in here with Herbert, Pollard, Etienne, Keenan, Amon-Ra, and Mike Evans. Those guys are studs, absolute studs. It doesn't even matter who your stupid tight end is. I'd probably go with, Ferguson until, Justin Fields gets back, but
Chandler, I'm happy for you. And more than anything, I am so impressed with Howard Bender's ability to make sense of that because I get, I didn't even, you knew it was Mike Evans. I didn't like Brown. Then you knew that because it was Alba Ross from before, very well. Okay, let's move on. D's nuts. My name is Jeff. Okay, Jeff. All right. Should I trade Pittman, Garrett Wilson, and Goddard? I have Waller for Bijan. I also have Zay and Nico.
He's got Zay Jones and Nico. Zay Jones or Zay Flowers?
I was going to ask the same thing. Here we are. So we're going to get back to this question, Jeff. Please just cut and paste. Put all that in with it. We want to know. We know it's Nico Collins because Nico's kind of a unique name in the NFL, but Zay is a little bit different. Let's see.
But Zay wasn't in the trade. Can we pop that up there, Brian Burns? Can we so I can see what this there we go. Right. All right. Should I trade Pittman, Garrett Wilson, and Goddard for Bijan? I mean, Zay Jones is hurt, so I'm going to assume that this is Zay Flowers and Nico Collins. If you're only starting two wide receivers, I would want something a little bit better, a little bit more, something I'm more comfortable with. Can you possibly turn around and maybe, I don't know, put some? I really love Bijan. I just don't want you to shortchange yourself on wide receivers too badly because I do like Michael Pittman and Garrett Wilson, obviously.
I do too.
So it's a tough call there. Need to know also how much you're improving your running back room. Is this a trade that you need to make? Because that's a lot of wide receiver talent. You're getting a great running back, but yeah, there could be some issues there. I need more information. Absolutely.
And also, we need to be mindful of bye weeks. You have to think about, are you going to get yourself into a little situation? Okay, we got another one right here. Byron says he picked up Jordan Mason in case McCaffrey can't go, drop or keep. Now, we're getting news on McCaffrey. looks like this isn't going to be a long-term injury. That's what we're getting. That is not really news. You know what I mean?
It's not a question of it's news, but like here's the thing. Like the game is Monday night.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan turned around, picked up Jordan Mason in case McCaffrey drop or keep. No, keep Byron. Like hold on to him. Because here's the thing. So Kyle Shanahan said, it's not a long-term thing, and he's hopeful that McCaffrey's going to be fine for this week. But here's the thing, that Kyle Shanahan is a liar, is basically what it comes out to. And one of the beat writers for the 49ers, actually, I think the one from CSN Bay Area, actually outed Kyle Shanahan. It was not last year, it was the year before, where she basically said that Kyle Shanahan specifically told all the beat writers, I don't want you to write about JaMychal Hasty because I want to unleash him as like a secret weapon this week, and I don't want the other team to prepare for it. And every freaking beat writer listened to him, and they didn't do it. They didn't write about JaMychal Hasty. And then finally, after like a couple of weeks of everybody just literally destroying the media members covering the 49ers, just torching the beat writers. This one beat writer, she came out and she was like, listen, this is what Kyle Shanahan did. And we all know that beat writers, their biggest fear is not being allowed into the locker room.
That's their job. Yeah, of course. You don't want to cross paths, right? And if you're asked to do something and that's what you need as your lifeline to get back in there, I get it. But that was very bold of her to come out and share the truth, and very important. We've got Jeff's question back. Okay. So wide receivers are Puka, Ridley, Wilson, Pittman, Flowers, Collins. Okay. Running backs are Saquon, Rachaad White, Roschon, and Spears. What do I pair with Goddard for Bijan?
Okay, so in this case here, yeah, all right. So now I'm seeing some good depth here. I think you could legit turn around and just be like, I'll give you, in all honesty, I think that, Wilson, Pittman, and Goddard, not terrible. Now that I see that you've got Puka and Ridley, or you could try like Puka and Goddard and see if that happens. And maybe I would even turn around and be like, I'd give Puka, Rachaad White, and Goddard. Like I would do that because I don't know what's
for Bijan.
For Bijan, yeah, I don't know what the target share is going to be for Puka Nacua. We saw that he didn't get a bunch of targets. I don't care that he dropped a touchdown pass. That's irrelevant there because Puka Nacua
has had such a great season.
Yeah, so many great things. But the question is what kind of a target share is he going to continue to see with Cooper Kupp being the number one? Was it like it was 2 weeks ago when one got 15 targets and the other got 14 targets? Or is it going to be more of a kind of a disparity in what we're looking at? So that uncertainty, I think you can just give less than, in the sense of like, instead of giving them Wilson and Pittman and ruining your wide receiver depth, you give them Puka in an uncertain situation, and then you hand them off with Rachaad White. Because here's the thing, like, are we ever going to see Rachaad White do more than like 50 to 60 yards and a touchdown?
No.
Probably not. There's really no big ceiling for Rachaad White.
Sure.
Not a great offensive line. Yes, it's run first in that system that Dave Canales runs, but there's no real big ceiling here for Rachaad White. So if you can go with like Puka and Rachaad White and Dallas Goedert, you look like you're giving away more than you actually, are.
Agreed. And someone who maybe isn't as savvy is going to look up Puka's stats and be like, oh, this is a big win for me, not thinking of the entire situation. I think that's a great move. Jeff, we thank you very much for getting back to us so quickly with those details, because we love right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor to help everyone with their lineups. We've got the DFS watch list. I feel like I've been holding a secret, right? We've been trying to catch up, but now after this break, that's it. We're fully focused. Okay. All of you during this break, your assignment is to make sure you go to my timeline, click on that DraftKings link, and claim your spot. Is that free challenge, 200 players. You can do that while we're on a quick break. When we get back, we're going to go over Howard Bender's Fantasy Alarm, DFS watch list, and more. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor, streaming on the Bettor Network as well as Fantasy Alarm.
The Bears have to be one of the most inept franchises of any sport I've ever seen in my entire life. And they share the city with the White Sox, who are also inept. Like, that is how bad the Bears are. I just don't understand how you can go your entire existence and the quarterback that wins you a Super Bowl is Jim McMahon. You couldn't find anybody else.
They don't have a good history with quarterbacks, but they let him be the quarterback for a long time, too.
Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes right there. And you drafted Mitch Trubisky. They were right there. I there's a lot of pain in being a Falcons fan. The Bears are one of the teams I could argue they might have it worse, and they have a Super Bowl.
And
when the best quarterback in the past 50 years is Jay Cutler, you have a problem.
That's so funny that you just said that. We were talking about Jay Cutler the other day, me and my friend, and I was like, yeah, he was on, because we were watching the Colorado Rockies game against the Giants, and it looked like he was behind the thing. I was, yeah, well, he played for Denver most of his career. We looked it up. Chicago let him be their starting quarterback way too long.
Here's the thing, too, is that Jay Cutler wasn't bad. Like, he was erratic. He wasn't terrible, though.
The poor man's Brett Favre.
I'm taking him over Justin Fields. I'm sorry.
I would.
But Jay Cutler led that team to an NFC title game.
Yeah.
That they lost to Green Bay. But he's gotten farther than anybody else. You want to know who the other starting quarterback was for the Bears in the other Super Bowl appearance they made? It was Rex Grossman. What are we doing out here? It was Rex Grossman and Kyle Orton was the backup. How are you that bad? Bro, oh my God. Listen to the top 5. According to Football Reference, the top 5 greatest Bears quarterbacks of all time. Jay Cutler, number 1.
I can't believe it.
Sid Luckman, who last played in 1950, is number 2. Jim Harbaugh is number 3. Jim McMahon, the Super Bowl winner, is number 4, and he played there for 6 years. And Mitch Trubisky, is number 5 on the list as terms of passing yards go.
I feel like Bob Harris should be with us to enjoy this music right here. This is how we're going to stay up for the last 30 minutes of this show. We're going to get to everything. Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here with you on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor. It is the moment you've all been waiting for. The most important thing that you need to know to set this DFS lineup is that you need to go to Fantasy Alarm and subscribe, because you're going to want to win. You're going to want to beat my 44th place, which I thought was pretty good. I was pretty happy about it. But just go to Fantasy Alarm. Use the promo code at fantasyalarm.com. Use the promo code LOCK. So it is fantasyalarm.com//lock. Let's talk about the locks that you got this week. We've got your watch list, and I'm very surprised to see that Taylor Swift's boyfriend is chalk this week.
I mean, come on. Isn't that the talk? Taylor's in the house. I mean, come on. All right. Well, first of all, before we get to the Taylor stuff here, let me just say something about this this deal that we're running over at Fantasy Alarm. I don't want to sound like the corporate shill, but I do have to say that this deal is probably the best deal that you're ever going to get in the industry. I see packages for like the rest of the football season being sold for like $200 still, right? We're going into week 7.
Yeah.
Right. So fantasyalarm.com/lock, promo code LOCK. It knocks another $100 off of the annual subscription. So you're paying up front, right? So it's $187 and change up front, but it's the full year. And so not only is it like everything in the football season that you're going to get the rest of the way, the baseball playoffs as we finish up, our MMA guy has taken down 4 GPP tournaments in the last 5 weeks.
Wow.
Right? Our NHL guys have started off insanely hot. NBA is starting up, and you know that my team at the end for the NBA is, absolutely fantastic. But here's where it also happens. You automatically get the baseball draft guide if you're into fantasy baseball, and that's already there. If you're a football person and you just only dabble in the other sports, well, every other sport is there available. But we're talking about next year's fantasy football draft guide, all the preseason stuff that we do. This obviously, and it unlocks the first 6 weeks, almost 7 weeks of the NFL season next year. So it's multiple draft guides, it's multiple seasons. Again, the initial cost, I get it. You will slap in the face there, $187. No, but when you think about what this cost is, it's $16 a month. Our normal monthly fee is $40 a month. So you're getting an insane discount. It's it's this upfront 1-year subscription, full access to the Discord. You guys could be sitting there in Discord and asking me personalized questions about your team. So the deal is incredible. I'm all for it because we're having a great season right now, and I want to share this with everybody. So fantasyalarm.com/lock, promo code LOCK. It takes the $100 off of your annual subscription, $187 for the most comprehensive, the most spectacular team that you've got in the fantasy world. That's my pitch. I'm doing it. You can take a look at the watch list. Take a look at the watch list that I'm putting out right now. That's out there.
Before you get to the watch list, I want to remind everybody in this room that they can get a lot of Frankenberry with that extra $100 that they're saving.
Oh my God! All the Frankenberry.
What just happened? All the Frankenberry, but sadly, Howard Bender. If we could make that into a bobblehead, I'd be so happy. Howard Bender will not be delivering the Frankenberry, but let's talk about the DFS watch list, which you could all get. And also you can see the link to sign up for our DraftKings challenge. Who's the chalk this week? Well, you've got a combo. You've got Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that a lot of people are going to be obviously floating into this. It's a matchup against the Chargers. And, Derwin James, fantastic safety. Everybody remembers Derwin James body slamming Travis Kelce, I think at one point last year or something like that. Travis Kelce came back the next time he faced the Chargers, and he put up over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, the Chargers defense is terrible. Absolutely nightmarish. They kind of shot themselves in the foot a couple of times on Monday against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas shot themselves in the foot a couple of times, which is why they didn't put up this one. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, give me Rashee Rice. This game is going to pop. I think this is the highest total on the main slate. The Eagles Miami game, which is a Sunday night game, that is, that's the highest on the slate at 52. But I'm telling you, people are just going to flock to Mahomes. And listen, I get it. It's a great way to do it. But you have to be able to dig deeper and find those bargain plays, because Kelce and Mahomes are the 2 most expensive guys, like most expensive tight end and the most expensive quarterback. So you have to figure that you're going to have to pay down somewhere.
And a lot of wares. You're going to pay down a lot of spots. You're going to have a trash wide receiver core. You're not going to be able to get a good running back. So you're going to expect those two players are going to carry you. And that's just an impossibility. And, there's no guarantee on this being a high scoring game. I know that the Chiefs are much different than Dallas Cowboys, but if you remember, that line moved within a 24-hour span from 46 total points up to 51.5, then back down to 50. And I was like, hell no, are either of these teams putting up that many points? I do believe the Chiefs can. I don't believe the Chargers can, but I get where you're going. You're also staying away or calling the Seattle Seahawks in general chalk this week.
I think they're going to be a little chalky. We're going to have to check the DFS ownership projections over at fantasyalarm.com and just kind of double check on that. But everybody starts, once you see Arizona, once you see Chicago, like everybody just starts to naturally flock there. Now, Geno Smith, I learned this past week. Now I know why he got punched in the face, because he's a jerk and he couldn't put up the points against the Cincinnati Bengals. So I understand that now about Geno Smith. Even though
that was over alone. Do you remember that? That's like such old NFL news, but it was such a great story that we all loved. He like got punched in the face by the vending machine at the facility over alone.
I know, right? Smack you in the mouth. Was it Ekubon? I think was the linebacker who just, Anyway, I think once you see Arizona, everybody just kind of assumes, especially when you're talking about, our friends over at Underdog using Marquise Hollywood Brown as a featured player in their pick'em contest.
Yep.
Right. Like, I think everybody kind of feels like Marquise Hollywood Brown is probably going to go higher on his line there. And then it could be a little bit of a back and forth. So I think a lot of people are going to the Seattle Seahawks.
I would agree with that. It becomes something that we see as a pattern through the season where it becomes then too much ownership in DFS and you're not going to be able to break away from the pack. The last one you have on here for Chalkerson is Mr. Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you're dealing with the Las Vegas Raiders and they're on the road, it's a pretty nice matchup for Josh Jacobs. If you're just looking straight up on what the numbers look like here, Chicago Bears giving up where is it? I just lost the number. I had the number and I lost the number there. Either way, Bears like 4 rushing touchdowns. It's just not a strong defense. Josh Jacobs, the real question is he in season form? I had a kind of a discussion with John Impemba earlier on the Fantasy Alarm show about Josh Jacobs and the fact that he's, 3.4 yards per carry, 3.1 yards per carry. And I'm like, what about the fact that, he hasn't, he didn't have a preseason? And he was like, it's week 6. You should be acclimated
in rhythm by now, right?
You should be. So I still think that that people are just going to look at the matchup and be like, oh, it's the Bears. Their defense is terrible. Josh Jacobs, backup QBs, they're going to ride him. So I kind of feel like, I'm looking at it, we'll see what his ownership projections are, whether or not I want to, use him. But he's very similarly priced to Kenneth Walker, who I like a lot more.
And you have to take into consideration as well, playing the Bears in Chicago, 1:00 game. That's like 10 a.m. in the morning for West Coasters. Like, there's an adjustment there where that could slow Josh Jacobs down to 3 yards per carry. You also, now let's move over into what value stacks for everybody be looking at. You've got some teams listed here. And the first one you've got, value stack, would be the Green Bay Packers.
So I do. I think this all lines up. Denver, I mean, it all lines up. And yet I always find like the one thing that just kind of makes me suspicious about it. Because you look on paper, Aaron Jones running against Denver is phenomenal. Luke Musgrave, the tight end. Denver's horrible against the tight end. I don't care about Isaiah Simmons. They're just not good. Now, Jordan Love has not looked good in his last 2 games. He started off the season white hot, and everybody was like, oh, I'm in. Now he's got some growing pains here. It's such a delicious matchup here for the Green Bay Packers that I want to get involved, right? I want to get involved with some Romeo Doubs and some Christian Watson and Luke Musgrave. But here's the thing, and this is kind of what makes me a little crazy about it, Lisa. If we know that Denver's terrible,
which we do,
and they've looked atrocious.
Yeah.
Atrocious. Green Bay's coming off of the bye week. They're getting Aaron Jones back.
Yeah.
Why are they favored by only a point? Like, you would think that maybe like it would be a field goal game or something like that. So there's something a little suspicious about the short line, the spread that's on there. So I do worry about it, but I think that a lot of people are just going to end up, they're going to be going for the Packers stack. I bet you see a lot of ownership their way.
We could also see the line move again once Aaron Jones is confirmed as definitely back and playing.
True.
That could be a thing. That's why it's always so fun to watch the lines. But the next team that you have here on value stacks is the Kansas City Chiefs.
I think if you have a good working knowledge of the cheapies, of the little pay downs, that, yeah, you can get great value using the Chiefs stack. Like you get Patrick Mahomes. Rashee Rice is actually super cheap. You look at what Rashee Rice's price tag is. He's a few hundred cheaper than like Kadarius Toney. And we've seen Rashee Rice get, his target share has increased. His snap share has
The trust
increased.
is there. You're starting to really see Mahomes trust him.
Yeah. So you're paying up for those two positions. But if you know that you got a guy like Rashee Rice, you throw in a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson, who everybody's looking at right now. Also, you get a guy like a Josh Downs. You get these cheap guys, Kendrick Bourne, and all of a sudden, you don't need these guys to do amazeballs things, right? They don't need 100 yards and a touchdown in order to, return value. But if you get like what Josh Downs did last week, would he have like 6 catches for like 50 some odd yards and a touchdown? I mean, it wasn't, by any stretch of the imagination, it wasn't like eye popping, but when you realize that you only paid $4,100 for him on DraftKings, well, then suddenly that kind of turns your head. So it allows you to enjoy that value that you're probably getting from Mahomes, Kelsey, paying up.
We got one question here we're going to get to before we talk about point spreads to watch. So this question comes in, says, what's your confidence meter? Which I like that term. What's your confidence meter? What's your confidence meter with Jacksonville wide receivers with a questionable Trevor Lawrence? Are you trying to look in degrees or Celsius? Are you going to do this in metrics or English? Like, how are we doing the meter thing?
Oh, I was just going to go with the.
Okay. I like that. That's a good. I like that.
All right. You pull out the fantasy calculator. I'll pull out the fantasy meter here. About there.
Yeah.
Right about there. Little less than halfway. Without Trevor Lawrence, I'm definitely worried about these guys. With Trevor Lawrence, I'm fine with them. It's not a great matchup. Calvin Ridley's going to be seeing a lot of Marshawn Lattimore. Lattimore is one of those corners who just gets under everybody's skin. Lattimore is very familiar with Calvin Ridley from the Atlanta New Orleans matchup there. So I do like Christian Kirk. I think Kirk is going to be somebody that you could take a little bit of interest in. But yeah, the confidence meter is not high based on the matchup and the possibility that Trevor Lawrence misses.
All right, let's go to some point spreads to watch. Jeff is finally in the room. He must have worked late today or he was barbecuing, but I know he will catch up on the rest of the show. We've got Buffalo -9 at New England. How do you feel about the Patriots this season, Howard? Just give me your no meter. Just tell me, did you see this demise? And do you think there's light at the end of the tunnel for Mac Jones? No. You love it.
Oh my God, I'm a Jets fan. Of course I love this. Are you kidding me? Patriots are atrocious. They're terrible. Now, the funny thing is that everybody's going to look at this line and they're going to be like, well, Bills were favored by 14 against the Giants and they looked like they couldn't get out of their own way. And it was terrible. Now it's a lower point spread here. It's only 9. Listen, Bill Belichick, he's going to scheme perfectly against the Bills. He's going to take Stephon Diggs away. If he had the personnel
to do that, he would. Exactly.
Right.
It is his intention,
yeah.
But he can't manifest it to happen. He actually needs the playmakers to make it happen. And we are, I hear this a lot, the conversation of Belichick and what he's going to do. And I'm like, that is not happening this year. That is not happening at all. Though it might be what he wants, it's not what's happening. That's why they're 1-5. This is a putrid team. So you're looking at this game as a lay down for the Buffalo Bills, maybe a get right game. Let's get a touchdown for everyone.
Right. Let's punish the Patriots after years and years of
abuse,
sitting there looking up at them in the standings. It's time for a little bit of payback.
Facts. Arizona at Seattle. We're again talking about point spreads to watch. It's -7.5.
I always hate the extra half point. I really do, especially because Seattle's defense isn't like, rock solid. This is not the Legion of Boom by any means.
That was a long time ago.
Right, real long time ago, right? Now Richard Sherman's doing like Oberto beef jerky ads, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like cleaning people's clocks on the regular basis.
Yep.
If it goes down to 7, I'll bet Seattle. The half a point makes me a little nervous. I might just take Arizona for like a backdoor cover here.
Los Angeles Chargers at Kansas City. The number is another one that Howard Bender is not going to like because it has a half. It is 5.5. What you say? Chargers just can't seem to get out of their own way as well.
They can't, right? They can't. And, and everybody's talking about the fact that the Chargers have played the Chiefs like super tough. Justin Herbert always gets up for a game against the Chiefs. And so they said that, I think it's been like the last few games that these two teams have played have been decided by like a field goal or less. So, we know that Kansas City has not been great at covering larger point spreads at home. 5.5 ain't terrible here, but I think that if these two teams start doing like a little bit of a back and forth, I might have to lean on the Chargers and take in the points.
We didn't much talk about the wily things that took place other than your Jets winning and beating the Philadelphia Eagles last week. But this San Fran taking their first loss was wild. That game, the finish to that game, the Browns defense is no joke. We get so kind of wrapped up in like, is Deshaun Watson playing? Like, what's going on? That defense is damn good. So that was like got to knock San Fran down. Of course, I felt that because they spanked around the Dallas Cowboys.
Can I give you a quick little story here? So I'm in a survivor pool, and Deborah, my wife, and I, we make the picks together, right? She wants to jump in on this, so we sit there and we kind of discuss them and we go through them. And she wanted to take San Francisco with one of the picks this past week, and I was like, all right, well, whatever. It's Cleveland, it's PJ Walker. No problem. As the week went on and the weather, it was an issue and the game total went from like 37.5 to 35. I was sitting here, I kid you not, like 2-3 minutes before kickoff on Sunday morning, after the London game. And I was like, you know what? She's going to be so mad at me right now if it doesn't work out, but I just don't feel good about this pick. And I swapped him out at the very last second, and I put in the Los Angeles Rams. And I was like, beautiful. Like,
you're still alive. It would have been over.
Yeah.
The survivor pool would have been done.
Come on.
And she wasn't mad, right?
She was not mad at all. She would have been like, oh, you're such a loser because the Rams lost and we still lost the pick.
Well, San Fran -6.5 at Minnesota. It's the Monday night football game. How you feeling?
Right.
I think the biggest tell here is going to be what we find out about Christian McCaffrey. I'm super happy it's a Monday night game because he gets an extra day of rest, but I'm not happy it's a Monday night game because you're one of those people that hopefully is going to be smart enough to put McCaffrey in your flex so you have some flexibility and have a backup on the bench, but that's just not ideal for us.
It is not ideal for us. Ideal is that you've got Jordan Mason sitting on your bench and you're waiting to swap in and out Christian McCaffrey. That's the ideal. When it comes to this game here, the Monday night home dogs, a lot of people like to flock to the Monday night home dogs. Minnesota just looks really bad, like really bad. And I mean, I took them to beat the Bears this past week and laid the 3 points because the line just looked suspicious to me. It doesn't. There's nothing suspicious about this line here at all. I think if McCaffrey doesn't play, I'll bet you this goes down to like 5, maybe at some point. But I think I'm still going to bank on the San Francisco defense, even though I know Trent Williams is questionable. Also, he might be out. But
look, they have had such a great run. would have been undefeated if they didn't get taken out by the Browns last week. Like, to me, it's like, no, that's all they've been thinking about all week, and they're going to go out there on Monday night. But again, it does rely a lot on Christian McCaffrey. Let's go with one more spot right here. By the way, the same league that I have Kyron Williams, I have Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah. What's on your bench?
I can tell you, I'll tell you in a minute, but I will say I'm 4-2 in that league, and I don't want to break my streak right now. I'll tell you what's on my bench. We'll go to Pittsburgh at the Rams -3.5.
You know, Pittsburgh's coming off the bye, and a lot of people love Mike Tomlin, and he's
After
a
the
great
bye, yep.
coach. But I love the Rams. I love what they're putting together. I get it. Their run game isn't that great. But man, you look at this Cup and Nakua and Atwell and Higbee, you know, that like you don't need a domineering ground game in order to, to best the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers defense plays better at home than it does on the road. So, I mean, I think that this could be a close game, but I think the Rams win this. I think they can cover the 3 points.
Okay, so let me tell you who I got on my bench. I'm not as afraid as I thought I was. Now let me just look at this
yeah,
again.
here we go. Here are the first world problems from Lisa Ann.
I've got Jerome Ford.
I love him this week.
Against Indy, very good there. I've also got Jonathan Taylor, who I have not yet taken off of my bench. I've been playing Zach Moss, but I can't play them both.
No,
right? I can't play them both.
No.
But I have Kamara in my flex. So I could move Alvin Kamara back into one of the running back spots, which I choose between Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. I could play Jerome Ford. And I kind of get a bunch of scrubs here, so I may need to make a move. I have a choice between Darius Slayton, Dawson Knox, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Allen Robinson.
Whoa. All right. So that's grotesque.
Okay,
But
look.
who are your wide receivers? Because you could start Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, and Jerome Ford. It's 2 running backs and a flex. Who are your
my wide receivers, Calvin Ridley,
Beautiful.
Jackson Smith-Njigba, Kadarius Tooney.
Ooh.
It's kind of gross, right?
What
George
happened?
Kittle, who has been not so exciting. And then I have Tyler Higbee and the flex. It's multiple tight ends here.
Okay.
So
is this your Queen's Classic team?
It is my Queen's Classic team, and it's a 14-team league. It's the only 14-team league I'm in. So
I'm
the
going
wires
through something very similar with an atrocious bench in one of my King's Classics teams.
Really? How many teams were in that? 14 or 16?
14.
Okay.
It's just grimy. Like you're sitting there because it's not only is it 14, but you're also starting 3 flexes.
It's gross. But at least my bench is Jerome Ford being there, the fact that I haven't had to utilize him, but yes, being hit that hard with two running backs is just incredibly difficult. We all know you got to make trades at this point. Okay, let's get to a couple highest game totals before we get out of here. My little alarm clock goes off. We got 2 minutes and 38 seconds, is what I think, because I hit that when I saw the 3 minutes come in. It's a real intense system over here. I'm going to go to the Monday night game because we were just talking about it. Highest game totals is 44, San Fran at Minnesota. They're not relying on Kirk Cousins to do much. They're thinking it's going to be all San Fran.
I don't know. I probably, again, if McCaffrey plays, I'll actually lean on the over here only because, man, Minnesota is just not that good of a team. They're not that good of a team. Can they put up, 14 to 20 points against the 49ers? Yeah, I mean, I could see them definitely doing that. But I don't see them holding, a McCaffrey led 49er team.
We're going to do one more really quick. Brian Bird's going to yell in a second. Miami at Philadelphia. This is an exciting game. It's Sunday Night Football. I cannot wait for this one. It's the highest total on the board so far this week. It's 52 points. This could go any which way.
I want both these teams to come in there like Yosemite Sam busted into the saloon. Like I want to see that. I want to see. These are two offenses that are ridiculously explosive.
And do not discount the fact that Julio Jones might be out there too. I mean, I know that she's not excited about Julio Jones, but I want to remind you all, you can play Pick'em on Underdog Fantasy by choosing higher or lower on 2 to 5 of your favorite players' stats. 3 correct picks equals 6 times your entry fee. 4 correct picks equals 10 times your entry fee. And 5 correct picks is 20 times your entry fee. All you need to do is sign up at fantasyalarm.com/underdog with the promo code ALARM. And first time depositors get a 100% match up to $500. We've got like 30 seconds left. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to share with your friends. Follow at Bettor Network. Follow at Fantasy Alarm. Sign up for Fantasy Alarm using the promo code LOCK. Am I right? LOCK?
Yes, you are.
LOCK. Howard, it's always great being here with you. I really want to talk to you again about this Frankenberry stuff. We'll get to that another day. I hope you wean yourself off. No more stashing boxes in the studio. Brian Burns, thanks for being an amazing producer and giving us the greatest sounds because you're the greatest. And to all of you, thank you for being here in the chat. We love it. We'll see you next Wednesday night. Tell your friends, Lisa Ann does fantasy better. Howard Bender and Lisa Ann.